Penguin Random House Audio presents The System, Who Rigged It, How We Fix It. This is the author, Robert B. Reich. For Future Generations. Introduction. In the spring of 2018, Jamie Dimon phoned me at my office at the University of California, Berkeley. I had criticized him publicly, and he was not pleased. He sounded off on the phone for several minutes without stopping. Finally, he asked, "You still there?" I said yes, and then told him in abbreviated form what I will tell you in the rest of this book. Dimon has a great amount of influence over the system. He heads the largest bank on Wall Street, J.P. Morgan Chase, which survived the 2008 financial crisis better than any other big bank. After the crisis, the New York Times gave Dimon the backhanded compliment of naming him America's least hated banker. He also heads the Business Roundtable, a lobbying group comprised of the most powerful CEOs in America. He is featured regularly on cable news and in the business press. His opinions carry significant weight on Capitol Hill. Dimon says he's a patriot before I'm the CEO of J.P. Morgan. He is a lifelong Democrat. He speaks out about the injustices and inequalities of contemporary America. He's not just talk. He has pushed his bank to invest in poor cities and to create better opportunities for the disadvantaged. I believe he's sincere, but he is awash in self-delusion, a condition especially dangerous in people who have significant power over others. Dimon doesn't see how he has contributed to the mess we're in. He doesn't acknowledge the inconsistencies between his preferred self-image as patriot first and his roles as CEO of America's largest bank and chair of the Business Roundtable. He doesn't understand how he has hijacked the system. I often single out Dimon in this book because he is emblematic of an abdication of public responsibility to maintain the health of our political economic system at a time when a comparative few at the top have more power over it than at any other time in more than a century. They've used their power to give themselves unprecedented wealth, which has bought them even more power. They've justified their wealth and power as being in the interest of the public, but the public has been shafted. Dimon himself is not the problem. If he weren't running J.P. Morgan or chairing the Business Roundtable, someone else would be, and probably not as capably. Regardless of who is in charge, a big part of those jobs is siphoning off the gains of the economy for the benefit of a few at the top. This is how the current system is organized. This is how incentives within the system are designed. To the extent Dimon or others like him are blameworthy, the fault lies in their unwillingness to buck these incentives in order to change the system for the well-being of the vast majority. This may be an unrealistically high bar. Dimon has no legal obligation to reach it. But does he have a moral duty to try to change the laws and incentives so no one ever again can become as rich and powerful as he and his colleagues at the Business Roundtable? Does he have a moral obligation to ensure that the American system is no longer rigged in favor of people like him? I believe he does. Let me explain. Millions of Americans, whether on the left or the right of the political spectrum, know something has gone profoundly wrong. Quote, "Right now we have a system that favors those who can pay for access and outcomes. That's how you explain an economy that's rigged to corporations and to the very wealthiest," said Beto O'Rourke at the first Democratic presidential candidates debate in 2019. When you've got an economy that does great for those with money and isn't doing great for everyone else, that is corruption pure and simple, said Senator Elizabeth Warren at the same forum. Big business, elite media, and major donors are lining up behind the campaign of my opponent because they know she will keep our rigged system in place, said Donald Trump in his acceptance speech at the Republican convention in 2016. If solutions within the system are so impossible to find, then maybe we should change the system itself, said 16-year-old climate activist Greta Thunberg. As New York Magazine's Frank Rich put it, everything in the country is broken, not just Washington, which failed to prevent the financial catastrophe and has done little to protect us from the next, but also race relations, healthcare, education, institutional religion, law enforcement, the physical infrastructure, the news media, the bedrock virtues of civility and community. Nearly everything has turned to crap, it seems, except peak TV for those who can afford it. He might have added the environment and our democracy. The concentration of wealth in America has created an education system in which the super rich can buy admission to college for their children, a political system in which they can buy Congress and the presidency, a healthcare system in which they can buy care that others can't, and a justice system in which they can buy their way out of jail. Almost everyone else has been hurled into a dystopia of bureaucratic arbitrariness, corporate indifference, and legal and financial sinkholes that have become the hallmarks of modern American life. This mammoth systemic dysfunction is generating a great deal of heat, anger, upset, frustration, and outrage. Heat in any system signals potential change, like tectonic plates that cause earthquakes and volcanoes as they crash into each other. Heat is a sign of underlying tumult. In today's America, the status quo is unsustainable. Subterranean tensions are building. If you want to understand where the system is now and what you might do to help move it in a more humane direction, you will need to look beneath its surface and reassess many of your assumptions. First, forget politics as you've come to see it, as electoral contests between Democrats and Republicans. Think power. The underlying contest is between a small minority who have gained power over the system and the vast majority who have little or none. Don't assume that a U.S. president or any other head of state unilaterally makes big decisions. Look at the people who enable and encourage those decisions and whose interests those decisions serve. Forget what you may have learned about the choice between the free market and government. A market cannot exist without a government to organize and enforce it. The important question is whom the market has been organized to serve. Forget the standard economic goals of higher growth and greater efficiency. The issue is who benefits from more growth and efficiency. Don't be dazzled by corporate social responsibility. Most of it is public relations. Corporations won't voluntarily sacrifice shareholder returns unless laws require them to do so. Even then, be skeptical of laws unless they're enforced and backed by big penalties. Large corporations and the super rich ignore laws when the penalties for violating them are small relative to the gains for breaking them. Fines are then simply a very manageable cost of doing business. Don't assume that we're locked in a battle between capitalism and socialism. We already have socialism for the very rich. Most Americans are subject to harsh capitalism. Don't define national competitiveness as the profitability of large American corporations. Those corporations are now global, with no allegiance to America. Real national competitiveness lies in the productivity of the American people, which depends on their education, health, and the infrastructure that links them together. You can also forget the ups and downs of the business cycle. Focus instead on systemic changes that have caused the wealth and power of a few to dramatically increase during the last 40 years at the expense of the many. Forget the old idea that corporations succeed by becoming better, cheaper, or faster than their competitors. They now succeed mainly by increasing their monopoly power. Forget any traditional definition of finance. Think instead of a giant gambling casino in which bets are made on large flows of money and bets are made on.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?